Good morning. Our next speaker, Dr. Chong, will share key strategies that have enabled Singapore to achieve one of the highest home ownership rates in the world. Singapore, we always talk about it during Moscow Urban Forum. We think that this is one of the example cities, and we all always learn from it. Dr. Chong is the CEO of Housing and Developing Board that oversees more than 1 million public housing flats in 26 towns, small satellite towns of Singapore. Dr. Chong introduced a new generation of public housing towns that are well designed, they are community-centric, sustainable and smart, and developed a comprehensive R&D framework to develop a more sustainable built environment. Under the leadership of Housing and Developing Board, a new concept of planning urban areas has emerged, which include implementation of all the necessary infrastructure and, of course, transportation systems, which are really great in Singapore. She also was a key driver of major development projects like Marina Bay City Extension, which is one of the most really beautiful places there with wonderful Gardens by the Bay Park. And also Sian Singapore Taijing Eco City. Also, I think an important part for us is that she's a chairman of the nominating committee of Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize. And I think this is one of the most prestigious awards in city development in the world. Dr. Chong, it's a great pleasure to meet you again. And please, I'm giving the word to you.
Thank you, Peter. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you. And first, a warm welcome from Singapore. Good morning, everyone. We are warm and sunny here. I'm not sure about the weather everywhere else in the world. Today, I'm going to just talk a little bit about how we house a nation, because that works towards a happier and more inclusive society. So I think we're familiar with the New Urban Agenda, and there are 17 Global Sustainable Development Goals, and one of which is sustainable cities and communities, whereby one of the important things is we are urged to provide safe and affordable housing and to try and invest in public transport, creating green public spaces to improve urban planning and management in a very participative and inclusive way. But we know that we need decent, affordable housing, which is at the center of sustainable cities development. And today, some 1.2 billion of the urban population really don't have access to affordable housing and secure housing. Now, if you've been to Singapore, you think it's a modern metropolis. But 60 years ago, this is what Singapore looks like. It was a nation of slums and squatters. When we became independent in 1965, we knew we had to improve the quality of life. So the question is, what makes our citizens happy in our living environment? Well, they tell us that you need an affordable quality home that is called my own. They want a safe, friendly, quality environment, reliable services, very accessible amenities, and they want to have a say in co-creating the environment. And of course, they want a place where we can enable active and productive aging and also to build strong communities. And so for 60 years, under the public housing developed by the Housing and Development Board, which is HDB for short, has been providing public housing for Singaporeans from the 1960s, which are very basic housing, to the very modern and quality environment today. And today, in public housing, we house 80% of the residential population in about 1.1 million flats. And uniquely, 94% of the people own their own homes, with only 6% rental for the very low income. And so Singapore has one of the highest home ownership rates in the world at more than 90%. Now, because of the limited time, I'm going to bring out 3 strategic thrusts in how we've achieved this, touching on home ownership as a social goal, ensuring affordability, and focusing on sustainability and quality. So first, the social goal of home ownership. Why home ownership? In most places, public housing is rental. But we believe that it enables people to have a stake in the country, it encourages better maintenance of the home, build a strong work ethics where we have to pay the mortgage, provide an asset and a store of value, and promotes rootedness and belonging to our very young country. And we have many policies that cater to life cycle needs, from taking care of young couples when they first get married, to having a home where they can bring up children, and when they retire, to use the home as equity and also help them to own a home. And how do we do this? Basically, we provide a wide range of options for different budgets and needs. So you have very small flats from 2 room all the way to very large flats in different locations to suit every budget and every wallet. And of course, we do have to provide subsidies. In Singapore, you can earn up to about 10,000 US dollars and still qualify for public housing. And the subsidies we give are tiered. If you have lower income, you get a lot more subsidies. As you can see in this diagram, it's stepped. And if you're higher income, you get lower subsidies. But no government in the world can continue to provide subsidies. People have to pay for their home and to pay for their mortgages. So how do we do it? We use the concept of the Central Provident Fund to finance housing. And this is Singapore's Social Security Savings Plan. So what is it? Every Singaporean who works will contribute 20% to the Central Provident Fund, the CPF, and our employers contribute 17%, which means that every Singaporean has a 37% savings rate, which is very high, of which 6% goes for old age and retirement, 8% go to MediSave, which is medical insurance. So all of us are covered by medical insurance, and of which 23% can go towards buying a home, whether it's public housing or private housing. So if the HDB price our housing, where the monthly mortgage is 25% or less, almost everybody can pay for their mortgages through this 23% savings in the CPF. And this is really below the international benchmark of affordable housing of 30 to 35%. In fact, more than 80% of my residents do not need to come up with any cash outlay in paying their mortgage every month. And this makes housing in Singapore much more affordable than many, many other global cities. As you can see here, the ratio of the median house price to median annual household income is only 4.7 compared to Hong Kong or Vancouver or Sydney. Now, the third very important goal we work towards is to make sure we provide quality housing that is sustainable and in a quality environment. And how do we do this? Well, we're guided by, this is a newly launched roadmap called the Designing for Life, whereby we have 3 pillars. We want people to live well, to live smart, and to live connected. So what does live well mean? It means that we really want to provide comprehensive amenities, which is very convenient and very accessible for everyone. We want to build healthy towns. We want to bring nature to our doorstep and also to rejuvenate and renew our older towns. So let me just illustrate. And I'll illustrate with an example of a typical town that we will plan and build. This is called Punggol Eco Town. It has about 96,000 units. And what we do is we provide all amenities for work, live, play, and learn, whether it's for employment, housing, commercial users, sports and recreation, hospitals, education, schools, and they're very well served by good transport infrastructure, rail transit, buses, and of course, highways and roads. And we want to build very distinctive districts. So each of the districts, we put in a lot of effort in the urban design to make them distinctive and highly livable in a quality environment. And this is a waterfront district, so it's quite beautiful. And this is the type of housing that we design. And mind you, this is subsidized public housing. We bring in greenery and water. Architecture is quite unique. And so today, HDB homes can actually be very beautiful. This is public housing. People can do up their own homes as they wish. And of course, it is transit oriented. We want to reduce the use of the car. So they're all very well served. Wherever you live, you have 300-meter radius from a mass rapid transit station that serves you so that hopefully you reduce the need to drive. And we are also looking at building a car like Singapore with greater emphasis on walk, cycle, and ride. We're going to pilot autonomous vehicles, car-free town centers, and also bus transit corridors. So we're experimenting with a lot of these transport initiatives. And we built a lot of cycling networks so that we encourage people to cycle so that we encourage clean commute. And we also bring in a lot of what I call the green and the blue. So for example, in this town, we dammed up rivers to form water storage reservoirs because we're very small, we need reservoirs. And we connect these reservoirs by a man-made river, and we add in a lot of greenery, whether they're parks or coastal linear parks. And this is the type of environment that we generate with the green and blue right in the midst of the town. And where there is, this river is actually a functional river connecting two reservoirs. You can use it for recreation. So it's multifunctional uses for infrastructure. We bring in the biophilic framework concepts in the design of our landscape using flora and fauna and water to create, and soil to create good outdoor thermal comfort to raise the health of people. And we want to build healthy towns, which are very holistic, looking at mental wellness, physical wellness, and through the life cycle of people living in the town, not just the elderly, but also the young. And we want to support a synthesis of built environment knowledge with a scientific medical knowledge in the way we design and plan and build. So for example, I'm not going to run through these. These are the elements of wellness that support physical, social, and mental health. And for each of these, you have design concepts that can cater for these, whether it's for physical, easy wayfinding, comfortable environment, or social or mental wellness. I'm just going to cite a few examples. So for example, we want to facilitate really active lifestyle so we can enhance the design of facilities to be more fun and engaging. We started to use more stairs and we put them in good locations. And we want to have a lot of messaging to encourage you to take the stair and not the lift. And on top of our rooftops, which are our multi-story car parks, we start to put running circuits and roof gardens for people so that the facilities are much more fun and engaging to make you get out the flat and walk and run. Encouraging signages that keep you walking and exercising. And we want to foster a safe and inclusive environment, both indoor and outdoor. So signages with pictograms and colors are important, especially for the elderly with eyesight that's deteriorating, which is outdoor. Indoor, we know that for eyesight, you can use colors to differentiate. So we actually bring in grab bars for elderly housing, and you can paint them in different colors for better visibility. And we want to promote social well-being by facilitating bonding across all generations. So we design all sorts of social spaces, whether they're large social spaces for mass events or even for smaller social spaces that encourage interstitial meetings among neighbors, among people. We have community living rooms where people can gather in the public housing areas. And a lot of our neighborhood centers, we are now promoting them as social and wellness hubs. They're integrated developments with polyclinics, which are health clinics, shops that sell wellness products, food that are healthier, sports facilities, and fun facilities where people can bring children. So these becomes our social and wellness hubs in the neighborhoods. And we want to engage the mind. So we bring in tranquil spaces with lots of greenery. We want to promote eco towns. And this is an interesting new town where we designed a lot of urban farmways for urban farming and gardening. And we want to encourage people to do urban farming. And it's also a good way for all the residents to interact in the town as part of their lifestyle and to learn about eco living, which engages the mind. Now, of course, I'm talking about a lot of new towns. Many cities, including Moscow, have existing housing, just like us. We have 1.1 million older flats. Now, we don't just build new towns. We keep going back to rejuvenate our old towns through many, many programs, such as the Remaking Our Heartland program, where once a town is older, we go back, we improve many of the towns, we put in new developments, new walkways, better transport systems, we upgrade the flats. We have redevelopment schemes where older buildings may have to be pulled down and people are relocated. We can discuss this a little bit further. I know that Moscow has a large redevelopment program which poses a lot of challenges, but we also upgrade the inside of the homes, not just the outside. And we have subsidized programs to upgrade the inside of the homes. We upgrade the parks and around the neighborhood. So many, many programs, and we even upgrade things like lifts, making sure there are lift access to every floor in the older buildings. Now, Live Smart is really about harnessing technology to get our residents to adopt technology which help them in their day-to-day living to provide greater comfort and convenience, better reliable services like lifts, and ensure green resource efficient estates. So, for example, for us, we do smart planning. Let me get back to this slide. And smart planning is really about using computer simulation models to help us model the town. So for example, wind flow analysis help us to bring in better air quality into the town and reduce the need for the use of air conditioning. We have solar irradiance studies and of course sunshade analysis. It helps us to locate the parts in shade, to locate solar panels where you can catch the best sunlight for better efficient solar energy generation. And we have noise modeling. Many cities face a lot of noise problems. So with this, it can help us to better design to shield residents from the noise, say from the roads or the highway. Now, we also have a city application visual interface, which is 3D interfaces with environmental modeling that help us to actually model sustainability initiatives and select the most optimal initiatives for sustainability in our towns, because there are many, many sustainability initiatives. So the modeling helps us to be optimal in the way we plan sustainability initiatives for the town. And of course, we deploy many smart and sustainability initiatives in the town, from solar energy for renewable energy, water efficient fittings, pneumatic waste conveyance systems, urban water harvesting, energy efficient lighting, many, right, including smart parking, smart lighting. Now, what we're doing now is to build smart enabled homes. And remember, these are public housing which are subsidized. We make them smart enabled so that our residents can adopt smart applications for their home. For example, utilities management. You can save a lot of energy and water by monitoring your usage. And elderly monitoring systems, because there are a lot of elderly now in our homes, and we can monitor them to keep them safe. If they don't move around or follow a certain pattern they're used to, there is a signal sent to their children or their neighbors so that someone can check on them in their homes. So making the flat smart and able and using technology helps with day-to-day living. So this is an example of a typical precinct called Punggol North Shore. We bring in a lot of technology that helps in smart planning, smart environment, smart estate, smart living, and smart communities. So this new Punggol North Shore, the first smart district, will be completing by the end of this year. And so we will see quite a lot of energy and water savings as well, because it's highly sustainable. Now, Live Smart also means resource efficiency. So for the older towns, we're bringing in what we call the Green Towns program. We go back and retrofit to reduce energy consumption, and we're going to use cool paints to cool the town down by painting the walls with cool paint, and a lot of recycling using pneumatic waste to improve recycling efficiencies. So we do not leave the old towns alone. We go back and we retrofit so that they are as good as almost the new towns. Living connected is about making places memorable. And we call it nurturing the kampong spirit. Kampong is a Malay word for village. We want to build and bring back the village experience in a very high density environment. It fosters social cohesion. So, in terms of the hardware, we actually mix all shared facilities. Everybody share the same facilities and the playground, and we mix the different types of flats, small flats, big flats, high income, low income, they're all mixed. And the software, we have an ethnic integration policy whereby we ensure that every town has the same demographic mix as a national demographic. We are highly cosmopolitan, multi-religious, multicultural, and multiracial. We want every town to reflect the national demographic so that we do not have racial enclaves. Because without racial enclaves, people grow up together understanding each other, understanding their lifestyles, and this helps to foster social cohesion and better communication. And we want a lot of ground up activities. We get the community to design the environment around them. So, as you can see here, there's a lot of activity in this slide. They can design their own playgrounds, recommend to us what they like to see in the neighborhoods, help to design what do they want, what are the places that are very meaningful to them, which we would like to keep, particularly if we're redeveloping the town. Social memories are very important to keep the sense of community and of the history of the town. But with the ground up facilities, we do need to facilitate it. So we have a Lively Places program where we fund a lot of the community with funding where they can do ground up projects. We actually train them to facilitate, to work with the neighbors, to get ideas, and how do you move forward with many of these ground up projects. And we have a platform where we actually throw out urban challenges and we say, look, we have this challenge. How do we make the living environment better? Give us your ideas. We will fund these ideas. And we are very open to receiving ideas and we encourage them to talk together. So, with that, designing for life, we want to build public housing towns which are really highly livable, sustainable, and where we can grow stronger communities. So, in a nutshell, this is what public housing in Singapore is about. So, I want to pass you back, Peter, where we can have a conversation on some of the things that I've shared. Thank you.
This is absolutely amazing, and thank you so much again for this. I think you've done an amazing job, and I think that Singapore is definitely an example of great housing and great city for all of us. I wanted to start from a large scale, and I really wanted to understand. Does Singapore has this kind of a approved program of developing itself through the satellite towns? So it's not like growing extensively like a big mega city, but actually creating smaller, more independent places with its own identity.
Right. Peter, the answer is we have both. We have to do both. Singapore is actually a very small city state, but what it does is it has a very strong core, which is a city center. Because for a country, it is important to have a strong city core for a signature image. And because you have many international companies, there's a lot of synergies in having a strong city core. But at the same time, we have a decentralization approach where we build certain poly centers. And similarly, the public housing is also distributed regionally. So it's a strong city core with a decentralized approach. Why? Because you don't want all the traffic to be moving only into the city. If you have only the city core, then you have massive congestion. So we also built satellite towns and poly centers, which are commercial centers, which serve many regional areas and the satellite towns, so that the growth is well distributed. You have many jobs closer to home, and as a result, you do not have such major traffic congestion into the city. Otherwise, everybody is going to the city in the morning and they're going to leave the city at the same time. So the peak hours will be quite horrendous if you do that. So we adopt both strategies.
Do you have identity for each of the towns, and do they compete with each other for citizens?
They do not compete. In fact, it gives people a choice of where they want to live. When we plan and design each town, we try very hard to understand the history of the area, right? And each area would have its own history, whether there was a village there previously, what do people remember about the town? And each town needs to have a very distinctive character. So the one that I shared on Punggol, it is actually a waterfront town. In other areas, it's what we theme as say a forest town, or a town where people remember certain memories, right? They used to have special things there, certain industries, or brick building, or villages that they remember. So we built this into the way we plan and design and do the urban design of the town. So these memories are retained, and they're retained in special places we keep. It can be murals, storytelling about the town. So every town we want to try and build identity and a community. They don't compete. People can choose to live anywhere they want.
I loved your phrase about that you really want to bring the village to every town, like to feel that you are in a village, but also being in the high density town. By the way, what is the density, or like a usual density? How many thousand square meters per hectare in such developments, approximately?
Okay, I don't have the number right now. It is very high density.
It is very high
As
density.
you can see, yeah, it is very high density. And I would say it would be close to densities in the big cities that you find, even in a public housing town.
Yeah.
And as you can see from the pictures. Yeah.
How do you program the first floors? Like as we were talking yesterday about our program of renovation, and we also have quite a lot of big housing projects made by private developers like Zeal or Southport here in Moscow, and big city project. How do you plan the first floors? How do you plan like cultural activities, sports, education, public spaces to make these cities equal and be on a very high level of really city life?
Yeah, I think, Peter, one most interesting issue is that in public housing, there are no walls. We do not build gated communities, unlike private housing, right?
Yes.
And in fact, even for private housing, we want to experiment such that we remove the walls. Because once you do that, the inclusivity, right, and the connectedness is there. Otherwise, you have gated communities. And in Singapore, it's very unusual. If you look at most of the public housing, we actually keep the first story open. And we do not build units on the first story. Why? Because that's where we put a lot of the social facilities. They could be childcare centers, some shops, polyclinics, health clinics for people, active aging centers. So the first story is a very social floor. I call it the social floor, and community living rooms.
Dr. Chan,
So most of the housings.
how do you decide exactly which function do you put in here or there? And should it be a shop or a community center?
Right. Now, all public housing towns are planned as neighborhoods. They are actually an aggregation of neighborhoods. And there are planning norms. Every neighborhood will have a certain number of units, and we know they need a certain number of types of shops. We know how many schools they need, how many childcare centers they need, depending on the demographics. So we have planning norms for every neighborhood. That's why the facilities are very comprehensive. And the facilities are done in hierarchy, from a precinct to a neighborhood to a town center. So the facilities are provided for each and every scale. So that's how you know what to put. Yeah.
Wonderful. Dr. Chung, I have hundreds of questions, and also our audience has hundreds of questions. We really need to meet face to face, offline, finally. We really miss Singapore. And we really hope that you will come and also give a lecture here someday after the pandemic stops. Thank you very much. It was absolutely amazing and very inspirational for all of us.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope everyone keeps safe, and let's overcome COVID-19. Thank you.
We will. Thank you.